Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, sponsored by ACR Poker, where this Sunday we have the return of the $1,000 TPE free roll at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. My name is Clayton Fletcher. I'm in beautiful, bucolic, and always serene New York City. Happy to be bringing you yet another episode of this longest running poker podcast in world history. And I'm not alone today, guys. I'm happy to welcome back to the podcast your friend and mine. He is the founder and grand poobah, the head honcho at Tournament Poker Edge. Of course, I'm talking about Derek Killing Bird Tenbush. Derek, how you been, buddy?
I have been fantastic. How about you, bud?
I'm great. Are you playing the free roll this Sunday? People want to know.
I am indeed. It is almost, as I like to say, nearly every Sunday. Every once in a while we miss it because you and I are both busy, but we've been on a nice long streak, and the turnouts have been really good. Last week was touch and go. People were panicking because it got removed from the lobby at the last second and then put back in, and people were in panic mode. But I always, people will hit me up in like 27 other places, like Twitter and Discord and Instagram DMs. Like, is it happening? Is it happening? I'm like, I'm on Twitch live right now. Just come ask me.
Yeah, chill. Like, if you want to know what I think, just, turn your volume up. I'm talking live on Twitch. So
yeah, I'm here right now. But no, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I think we're probably going on, I don't even know, maybe 9 months of running this, something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think maybe even longer.
Yeah, I should look back when the first one was, because maybe we need to do something special for the 1 year anniversary of the free roll. That would be cool.
I love that. Spitballing ideas right here on the podcast. I'm all for it. I think we should absolutely do something special for whatever the 1 year is, unless we already missed it.
Yeah, which is actually possible. Time has been flying by way too fast lately, so.
Yeah, I mean, you're busy. You're running all kinds of businesses. You're an ACR stormer. How's that going?
It's been going good. I've managed to get my schedule a little more consistent, which always helps, just getting people to come in and know when to find you and all that stuff. But yeah, we've been having fun doing it. We're a little ways off, but I'm coming up on 10 years of streaming on Twitch, which is kind of insane. It also makes me feel really old.
Yeah, who's been Twitch streaming longer than you in the poker world?
Yeah, not too many people. Probably the only one that's still around is Jamie Staples.
Right.
Somerville. Jason Somerville was, of course, before any of us, but he hasn't streamed in several years. So I might be the second longest Twitch streamer of all time. Staples,
then you, maybe Lex around that same
Lex
time.
would be up there. And there's a few smaller streamers too. I mean, not to say that I'm big. Other streamers in my sort of size of audience who've been around for quite a long time, but not quite 10 years. But we are definitely going to be doing something special for that. I've already talked to our good friends at ACR, and they're going to put up some fun prizes and stuff. So it's a ways away. But if you just happen to be listening to this in December, because I know people come back and listen to these old episodes, you better hit me up and find out what's going on. December 12th.
So like your 10-year anniversary, we're going to do like a big stream that day.
Yeah.
I love it. I've been doing a little streaming. For me, just what you just said, Derek, the consistency is really hard, especially with my other career as a comedian and everything. It's really hard for me to say, okay, this same night every week, I'm going to be on Twitch. So it just ends up being those who have the subscription or the notifications on, they get like an alert, like, Clayton's playing right now. But yeah, I don't really know exactly when I'm going to have time to like hunker down and go on Twitch for 5 or 6 hours and maybe longer if I do well in some of the tournaments. But I do really enjoy it. I like interacting with people in the chat, and I feel like it actually in some ways makes me more focused on the poker, because I'll be honest, right? When I'm just playing on ACR by myself, I might get a little distracted, something on TV or something on my phone. But when you're streaming, you just kind of have to pay attention or you miss something.
Yeah, that's one of the most common questions people ask is like, hey, do you think it's minus EV to like Twitch your poker sessions? And I used to think for sure it was. But as time went on, I started to realize that whatever EV I'm losing because I might be distracted by something or, I have to, I don't know, take a bathroom break at the exact right time and, things like that. I might be making up in the fact that, for one, you don't want to screw up in front of hundreds of people, even though I do it every single day, dozens of times. But also, like you said, you're kind of sometimes you're sort of narrating your thoughts. So it's kind of like going through exactly what we do when we talk about hands on this podcast, but you're doing it with 100 people watching. So you get a chance to think through your decisions a little bit more sometimes. But I like to think those two just eventually just even each other out.
Well, I think you have the most fun stream of all. It's twitch.tv/killingbird. Coming on 10 years now, coming up on a 10-year anniversary. Like, obviously, what makes your stream work. It's that you just have a fun-loving spirit. It's not really as much about, going really deep into game theory and strategies and stuff. It's more about having fun and goofing off with, your friends, even though some of them might actually be friends that you've never actually met online. But some of these people have been streaming along with you for 10 years now. So they're friends.
Yeah, that's why I love that our home games are called home games, because it feels exactly like that. Like, I'm sure a lot of our listeners play in like a neighborhood game, or they get together with their buddies once a week or once a month to play. And, you do want to win, but at the end of the day, you're really just getting together to maybe have a few beers, catch up with your buddies and maybe slow roll a couple of your friends. And I always tell people, like, the home game is the one time where you're allowed to slow roll, you're allowed to trash talk, you can do anything you want.
Yeah, no holds barred in the home game for sure.
Yeah.
So speaking of catching up with friends and getting some drinks, everybody knows the World Series of Poker is officially started. It's in full swing at this point. I'll be heading out there next week. What about you? Am I going to be able to get you a beer out in Vegas?
I do not think you're going to be able to, unfortunately.
Oh, bad beat. What's going on? Are you just too busy with work?
Yeah, kind of a combination of things, but that's definitely a big part of it. I also have a ton of travel coming up the rest of the year, particularly September, October, November, and December. So part of it was just that I had so much stuff that I need to sort of take care of and address that I'm going to kind of use this summer to use that or to do that. In fact, normally I would be on my way to Los Angeles right now. My wife and I do a trip every single summer to see a band reunion. And we even canceled that trip, which we haven't done in, other than the COVID years, we haven't done in probably a decade. So we had to say no to a lot of things this summer, unfortunately. But I will definitely be following from afar and sweating you for sure.
Well, I'm going to be taking over the ACR Instagram channel as part of our promotion for the Millionaire Maker. So they're basically giving me the keys to the Instagram. And
Nice.
I'm going to be all over the place that day. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm also going to be creating some content for poker.org. And of course, doing commentary for Poker Go. So I'm going to be busy along with a very full tournament schedule of just, doing my media stuff as well. I'm really sorry you're not going to be able to make it, but of course, I do understand you've got to prioritize. That's very important.
Yeah. And, I probably would have ended up, if I did go, it would have been for maybe a week or two. So it's not like I'm missing out on the entire series because I wouldn't have been there for it anyway. But it's always fun to get out there. And everyone knows how I am. I would have enjoyed just hanging out and catching up with everybody just as much as I would have enjoyed the poker. So that's the part I'll miss the most.
Well, to me, the reason I'm not there yet is because next weekend I have to go to a wedding. So, yeah, I don't know whose idea it was to get married in June. Like, who does that anyway? What a bizarre decision to make. But I guess I kind of have to be there because I'm the best man. So
They double screwed you. They screwed you on the date, and they made you the best man.
Yeah, I could skip the wedding if I were not the best man, but it's kind of frowned upon for the
Yeah.
best man to miss the wedding. So I guess I have to go.
You could have just FaceTimed.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We'll pretend it's COVID. I'll Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I'm having pretty severe FOMO already. I see some of my friends cashing. Nikki Limo did really well in one of the early tournaments. I got to get out there, man. I'm like really itching. I'm champing at the bit, as they say. Yeah, look, it'll go on without you this time, but we will miss you. And if I get together with any of our regular loyal listeners, we'll be sure to propose a toast that might be familiar. Here's to swimming with bow-legged women. I don't know what it means, but you hear it a lot if you ever go to twitch.tv/killingbird.
Yes, please do that. I will be missing the fact that I'm not there hanging out with them. But if they get bored while they're in Vegas, they can always log into the stream and say hi to me.
Yeah, are you going to keep the Tuesday home game going throughout the summer?
Yeah, I'll keep it rolling. There might be the occasional one that I miss, but the one that probably won't be a problem is the Sunday free roll. We should be able to keep that going the whole time because most of my trips and stuff are during the week. So we'll keep that going.
Sounds good. And, depending on how things go for me in Vegas, I might have to try to get into the free roll just to be able to get myself back home to New York.
Yeah, there we go. No, I have faith in you this year. I feel like it's going to be a good summer.
Well, somebody went on Twitter and they were doing like bold predictions. They said that I'm going to win a bracelet.
Wow.
I hope it's right. I mean, it sounds great to me.
Yeah, that'd be a nice little, and then you can come back and raffle it off on the stream. People love that. We can make that the prize for my 10-year
for your 10-year
stream anniversary.
Yeah, that's great. As long as we make it all about you, I'm happy. Shout out to David Frank Fair on Twitter for being the first one to predict that I will win my first bracelet this summer. I actually had to give him a follow for that one.
I was bummed that you were not an option in the WSOP Fantasy League.
Wait, I wasn't even on ACR?
No, I tried to. I was like, "Oh, where's he at?" But no such luck.
I'm so overlooked sometimes, Well, in fairness, I don't play that many mixed games. I do play PLO, but that's about it besides No Limit Hold'em. So I do think for those kinds of leagues, you really want to get somebody that's going to be playing like, the Raz and the Stud High Low and all that, which I don't really have any interest in.
Yeah, that's true. I did, unfortunately, I guess, draft Moneymaker, but then he said he's only playing the main event. But I think he did actually end up flying out and played an event or two. So I don't know, maybe it'll end up working out for me.
So many times people say they're not going to play and then they show up.
Yeah.
That's just the pull, the magnetism of Vegas in June is real. So yeah. I never believe poker players who say they're not going. I don't even believe you. You'll probably end up there like June 15th. I'll see you.
That definitely happened one year. I remember it vividly. I was like, I'm not going. And I was like, oh, okay, 2 events.
Well, this is so good to catch up. Are you ready to talk some poker?
I'm ready.
All right. So I want to go back over some hands that we introduced. This is going to be from last year's World Series of Poker main event. This is day 3, about 200 or 300 players before the money, kind of late on day 3. And we have a couple of hands involving the great Tom Dwan, or Durr, as I will always call him. I want to go over these hands using my new favorite poker tool, GTO Wizard. GTO Wizard is the best thing on the marketplace right now. If you want to improve your game, you can study any spot. You can practice different things that you might have trouble with, find holes in your game. There's drills you can either set up your own drills or use the predetermined drills. They're constantly updating the software using the power of artificial intelligence. Find and plug leaks in your game with GTO Wizard. We have a link in the description of this podcast, guys. And if you click it, you get 24 hours, unlimited access. And at the end of that 24 hours, if you decide to buy, which I really think you will, you save 10% by using our affiliate link. So you want to do that for sure. Derek, have you ever played with GTO Wizard or any of these solver programs out there?
No, to this point, the extent of my experience has been going through it a little bit with you on this podcast. So I need to delve in. I often tell, like, people ask me how many hours you spend studying a week, and I say usually about 0, which probably shows in my Sharkscope graph. But yeah, I need to, because I know when we went through the hands the last time, some of the spots were pretty surprising.
Yeah, and they always are. That's what I really love about it. So let's go back. The blinds were 2,000 and 4,000, with a 4,000 big blind ante. So there's 10K already in the middle as the cards are being dealt. And Durr is in second position with 240,000. So he's got 60 bigs, or an M of 24. And he's got the ace 8 of hearts. And he raises to 10K, 2.5x. From there, it folds all the way to the button, which is a Frenchman by the name of Clément Richet, which I just like to show off my French accent. He's on the button with the ace of spades, 10 of clubs, and he's got Durr pretty well covered with over 100 big blinds, and he decides to just flat call on the button with ace 10. Looking at the results here, well, before we look at the results, Derek, do you have any problem with either player's decision so far?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't always open ace 8 of hearts from early position, but I'm also not Durr. He's obviously he's well, I was gonna say he's not gonna get himself in much trouble post flop, but actually he might.
He definitely does. Yeah.
He can be a little crazy sometimes, but I think it's totally fine. And he probably has somewhat of a good read on his table. He kind of knows how people are playing, so I think it's fine. The ace 10, kind of the same situation. I'm not always putting my chips in here. I think it's fine to fold here too against an early position open. But having position is always nice. And there is going to be a part of me, if I'm this player, that says, okay, this guy's a blaster. So if I do flop well here, I could definitely get paid. So I think it's fine to flat here.
I love doing this cold because you haven't seen this hand before, and I'm assuming you didn't have time to listen to last week's podcast episode.
No, I have not.
Yeah, so you don't actually know what happens. This is great. Anyway, GTO Wizard, our solver of choice, gives Durr a 100% rating for his open with this hand. So we're actually opening all suited aces. And Richet, with the call, he's got a 50% score there. He can also 3-bet and get 50%. The only way you would get a 0 is if you folded, which you said you would do some of the time. So that's interesting. We do want to defend our button, if you will, with the ace 10 offsuit. Also somewhat surprising for me because, back in the old days, we used to call this a trap hand. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Get in trouble playing those offsuit ace 10s, king 10s, hands like that. But yeah, we're going to call, even though Durr is under the gun +1. So now there's 30K in the middle, and the flop comes ace of clubs, king of clubs, 5 of hearts. And remember, Durr has the ace 8 of hearts, so he's got top pair and a backdoor flush draw. Richet, with the ace of spades, 10 of clubs, has top pair and a backdoor straight draw. And he's also got a backdoor 10 high flush draw. Most importantly, he's got Durr outkicked. So Durr checks to him. Richet decides to bet 20K into the 30K pot, and Durr calls. Any thoughts on this?
I feel like his sizing might be a little big on the C bet. Well, it's not really a C bet since he was not the original opener, but his bet. I guess the good thing is that because we're in position, we don't necessarily, we're going to get checked to a lot of the turn. So maybe we're just trying to get a comfortable amount of money in this pot. I just don't know what the bet accomplishes unless Durr has basically what he has, or maybe like king queen or something. But I think with that sizing, we're just going to fold out pretty much everything we beat, although we didn't in this case, and maybe get ourselves into some awkward spots when we make it this big, because then if Durr's check raising, it's going to be massive.
Yeah, and it's actually a pretty good flop for Dwan, right? He's got top pair, backdoor flush draw. But, one thing I've been learning from playing around with GTO Wizard is that when we get called by a player who has position on us, we check to that player a whole lot, way more than I ever did.
Interesting.
So even though Durr flopped pretty well here, he still wants to have a lot of checks. For example, I'll reveal the results here. Durr is supposed to check 43% of the time, even though he has top pair and a backdoor flush draw. When he does check, Richer is supposed to check 80% of the time. So the rest, he's got a pretty mixed strategy, but of the bet sizings that he has, that 20% of the time that he bets, he does prefer this larger 2/3 pot sizing.
Interesting.
If you're going to bet, this is the best sizing according to GTO Wizard. And I think that may have something to do with the fact they started with 60 big blinds. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it's like you want to bet kind of big here and then check it back on the turn. And then,
Interesting.
yeah. And then, of course, Durr calls. He doesn't have any check raises, which also surprised me. So, yeah, when the guy does bet, especially because he did bet so big, Durr doesn't check raise. So moving to the turn, now there's 70K in the middle, and the turn is the 9 of spades. So our board is now ace of clubs, king of clubs, 5 of hearts, 9 of spades. Durr with the ace 8 of hearts, and Richer still has him out kicked with ace 10 offsuit, and both players check. Any thoughts?
Well, certainly from Durr's standpoint, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think I would check here all the time, and if the way the hand played and in this exact spot, I think I like checking back. It kind of makes it look like we just took a stab at this, with maybe nothing or maybe some kind of backdoor draws or something. No draws really came in, so I don't think we have to worry too much about the river. So I like checking back in hopes that Durr bets and I can just call.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ever raising at this point.
I think that's a good plan. Yeah, I mean, when he calls that big bet on the flop, he might not be screwing around too much, and he might be slow playing a really big hand. Ace, king, pocket aces, pocket kings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. I like checking back here in position, and that way you can hopefully manage. Although knowing Dwan, he could bet 200% pot on the river and then really put you through the ringer.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff he does. ACR Pro, by the way, Tom Dwan. The river is the jack of diamonds, and now Durr does lead. He bets 27K into 70K, and Richer folds.
Wow.
So it's like he planned the hand exactly the way you would have set it up. Like, I'm checking the turn, hoping that Durr bets small on the river so I can just make the easy call with one pair.
Yeah.
Instead, he finds this fold, and Durr probably didn't even know he was bluffing, but he gets Richer to fold a slightly better hand. According to the solver, Durr's bet is fine. He does a mixed strategy on the end. So sometimes he checks, sometimes he bets. This sizing is fine. Richer is actually supposed to go all in 64% of the time over this small river bet.
Wow.
And only call it 4% of the time. Actually fold the rest.
Huh.
I would never have figured that one out. I still don't know why we can't call more often. It feels like ace 10 should be good a lot, right?
I mean, yeah, I would think so. I would have suspected for sure that this would be like something along the lines of call 100% of the time, fold 0% of the time.
I mean, one thing is that we block the nuts, right? So we have a 10, and queen 10 is the nuts on this river.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be one reason for shoving rather than calling.
We played our hand relatively like our hand looks pretty weak. Like Durr's bet almost feels like he's trying to get called by like king queen or something.
Definitely. I think Durr was going for value.
Yeah.
Well, he ended up getting a fold, a fold that he didn't know he wanted.
Right.
But yeah, if you think about it, I do think that Richer could play queen 10 this way, just calling pre-flop, taking a stab with the gut shot on the flop,
mm-hmm.
and then rivering the nut. So, of course, you would go all in if you had the nuts. So I guess you need some bluffs, and like 10x is a good bluff. But it's just odd to me. I feel like we have so much showdown value to call with a pair of aces. But yeah, solver hardly ever calls in this spot.
Yeah, that's way less than half pot.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, he's betting
70K,
about a
yeah.
third, about 40% actually. So
This is where I wish we could ask the robots questions.
Yeah.
Explain yourself, robot.
They'll say, we won't. You do what we say and you'll like it. All right. You want to do another one?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. So from the same level, a little bit later, but in the same level, Colin Phoenix is on the cutoff. It folds to him. He's got about 210,000 in his stack. So he's sitting on about 53, 52 big blinds. And he's got the ace jack offsuit. And he opens from the cutoff. Adam Friedman in the big blind with a very similar stack, right around 50 bigs, makes the call with ace 8. And the pot is 26,000. So before I do the flop, any issue with opening ace jack and calling with ace 8?
You said Friedman's in the big blind?
Yeah.
No, I think this is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I agree. 26,000 in the middle of the flop is king of clubs, 8 of hearts, 5 of spades. So king 8, 5, rainbow. Colin Phoenix has ace jack, and Friedman has outflopped him. He's now has middle pair with an ace kicker, and Friedman checks. Phoenix c-bets 11K into 26K, and Friedman makes the call. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it both seem pretty standard. I mean, the big blinds, especially in this day and age, are defending much wider. So they have almost everything in their range. Anything with a king on it is better for us than them, I would imagine. So I'm c-betting here. I think his sizing is good, not too big, not too small. And certainly based on that sizing, I would call with ace 8 for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The ace jack, which has no pair and really no draw, never checks. So we're always c-betting this flop. I guess king 8-5 is such a good flop for our range, and we have a pretty substantial range advantage and nuts advantage for that matter. We just have to bet with ace jack, even though we have showdown value and ace jack is probably good a lot. We don't have any checkbacks on this flop. Are you surprised by that?
Not really. Well, maybe I am, only in that it seems like solvers like these in general tend to like some, mixing in some other things. But as a mere mortal human, I would be c-betting here a large percent of the time, if not all the time.
All right. So now the turn comes the queen of spades. So our board is now king of clubs, 8 of hearts, 5 of spades, queen of spades. Now this card brings the gut shot for Colin Phoenix. Friedman, of course, checks again. And now Friedman decides to bet 27,000, which is just a notch above half the pot. And Friedman finds the call again with ace 8, which I'm not sure I would have been able to do. Thoughts on this street?
Yeah, this is a spot where I think I would tend to check back. Like, we took our stab, we got a caller. Whether we just think this guy's, there's not a lot of things to float here. There's not like really even backdoor flush draws or any reasonable straight draws. I'm going to assume he has a little piece of this. We've now turned some equity, and I'd rather just realize that equity by checking back and keeping this pot a little smaller. I'll be shocked if GTO Wizard doesn't say that we should check back some percentage of the time, maybe like 50-50. But that being said, when we do bet, I am surprised that the ace 8 calls. And I don't know, that could be player dependent. That could be some reads that have been developed or whatever. Who knows? But I think I would certainly fold to the second barrel.
Yeah. So the percentage of the time that we check behind when we pick up equity with the queen is 0.1%.
Wow.
Yeah, the solver loves to double barrel. So if you pick up a gut shot on the turn, or obviously a flush draw, but yeah, it's very surprising. I just feel like this queen is a much better card. It's a much better card for us as the in-position pre-flop raiser. If he managed to call with an 8, now he's got another overcard to that 8 to worry about. He could also be calling us with a 5. He probably doesn't have that many kings in his range. We have a lot better, stronger kings in our range, although I'm not sure we're trying to, force him off of top pair at this point. If you play with the solver a lot, you'll see that a lot of our continuation bets are designed with the idea that if anything good happens, even remotely good, on the next street, we're going to barrel that card too. There aren't that many check behinds after we c-bet. and if we pick up any type of equity. Like this gutter ball is more than enough for GTO Wizard to have us betting again. And Solver actually likes the sizing. So now let's look at Friedman, who managed to find a call with ace eight. And believe it or not, the solver loves it, calling this bet 95% of the time. I know that I'm folding in these spots too often. You know, I see another overcard. I just have a pair of eights. This guy has all the pocket aces, pocket kings, pocket queens, ace king, ace queen, so many hands that beat me. He's not giving me a particularly good price, like a little more than half the pot. I think I fold too much in these spots, and it sounds like maybe you do too.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, I guess we're basically calling, hoping for one of three things to happen: an eight coming out,
right?
Or an ace coming out, or him checking back when we check the river.
Yeah,
like these
much.
are the three things we're hoping for, and I don't know how likely any of those are, except maybe the check back part.
Exactly. So yeah, surprise to both of us. And now we've got a pretty big pot here, Derek. It's 102,000 in the middle, and the river comes the six of clubs, which really completes nothing at all. And Friedman checks his ace eight one more time, and Phoenix can't find the third barrel. I'm pretty sure it would have worked, but he gives up and checks behind and shows down ace jack and loses to the ace eight. Any thoughts on this river play?
Yeah, it's obviously so easy for me to look at the board and go, "Oh, he's got a barrel. If you got a barrel." Yeah. It's a lot easier to say when you're playing $11 ACR tournaments than playing the 10K main event. As much as I would love to say, "Oh, well, now we have no showdown value. We just have to bet." The problem is I don't know what we're ever like. We get the 8 to fold, but and a 5. But I mean, with that queen coming out, we're not getting any king or queen to fold, and we might not even get like 10s to fold. Although 10s would have 3-bet pre, so that's a tangent. But I'm checking back. Not saying that's what GTO Wizard's going to say, but I'm pretty sure that with me not knowing the board like I do, I would check back here almost every time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I would too. Maria Ho was one of the commentators, and she was saying that he should absolutely barrel again, that he should put in a really healthy bet here on the river and go after this pot. Don't show down ace jack, because once you barrel the turn, you have to follow through with the river. I actually disagreed with that when I was watching this hand, and I was happy to see that the solver actually likes a check 100% of the time. If you can call me on the turn, guess what? You win this pot. When it comes to six of clubs or whatever on the river, that's not a card I'm going to keep barreling. Maybe if the river could be a little bit more scary, or a jack, or maybe another queen. I don't know what constitutes scary that doesn't actually improve my hand. I guess a 10. But yeah, we don't barrel that 6. You never bluff this card in this situation. So then Adam Friedman takes down a really nice pot. 100,000 pot with just a pair of 8s there.
Yeah, and this kind of demonstrates too, like as I was saying, hindsight's 2020. But this in my mind is why I check back the turn, because then we have all the options on the river. We now can barrel. I'm probably still checking back, but I just feel like we cost ourselves so much less by doing that. That being said, I frankly trust the computer more than I trust my computer. So.
Oh yeah, these robots at this point are better at poker than you and I will ever be. So believe me, I trust whatever they tell me. But I just, I think the fun of using the solver is you kind of have to figure out what you're missing, because the solver won't tell you why. Like you say before, right? You want to ask why. They'll never tell you why. But it's fun to go with the solver and say, okay, so if it had been this card, I would barrel, but on that card, I don't barrel. What's the difference, right? Like, is it just randomizing? Because sometimes it is that. But, playing with earlier versions of the solver, like, our listeners know, I used Poker Snowy, which is probably the first one I ever heard of. I tinkered around with that thing for a while when it first came out years ago. PO Solver is probably the most famous one internationally, but GTO Wizard isn't just a solver. It's got all of these other features, and that's why I really like using it. And I do think it's improving my game a lot. But one thing it's telling me is how much I don't know about poker.
Yeah, I mean, it does demonstrate why if you are serious about getting better at poker in this day and age, it's pretty hard to to not justify getting. There's so many spots where to me it just seems like so obvious, and then GTO Wizard says 100% the opposite.
Yeah, no, I don't know if the next time I'm in a situation like Richer found himself in the previous hand, if I have Tom Dwan betting a third of the pot and I have just a pair of aces, am I really going to find that shove just because I have a 10? I don't think so.
Right.
But just kind of when you watch a high roller, for example, like you watch the David Peters and the Dominic Nietzsche and all those guys playing, and you can't figure out why they're doing what they're doing. Sometimes it's good to go back and look through the solver outputs and say, okay, so we are supposed to find that. And the reason why is because we want to be able to value bet. So we have to balance that with bluffs.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess one thing we forget is I guess a lot of this stuff is meant to be successful over time. So when you're put in that exact same position 100 times, if you shove 100 times, you're going to win more than you lose. Right.
Right.
But it's just in those exact moments, you're like, well, this can't be right.
Right. You're sitting there playing the main event and you got one of the best players of all time at your table betting a third of the pot. I don't know if I have the cojones, man, to just go, oh, I'm all in.
Yeah. I've seen him make some calls with third pair on high stakes poker, and
Exactly.
I ain't trying to be on the other end of that.
Yeah. He doesn't actually care that much about the 10,000 it costs to play.
Yeah. He'll just go buy into the 100K cash game down the road.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was fun. I usually have to do these by myself, so it was fun to kind of talk through these solver outputs with you, and just realize how wrong we both are, how much we still have to learn, even though we've both been playing this game for decades.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never been a big fan of strategy streams on Twitch, but it would be pretty fun to just do one where you go through a bunch of spots and have the chat vote and see, on each street and see how many people are wrong. Because I'm guessing it would be a lot on a lot of spots.
Oh, that's a great idea. Hey, guys, get in the if you like this idea, let us know. Go into the Discord. We have our own Discord. There's a link in the description of this podcast. If you like the idea that Derek just put out there, that we would actually have like a strategy stream where people are voting in the chat, like an interactive practice session, if you will. If you guys would participate in that, let us know, because I think that would be fun, especially if we can get a lot of people to join and vote, and then we'll all learn together what we're all missing somehow. Like we missed.
It might be a fun 1 hour lead up to the free roll or something.
Great idea. So let us know, guys. Get in the TPE Discord and let us know. All right, Derek, let's do one more hand, but this time I want it to be a hand that you played.
Yeah, let's see how the robot that is Killingbird plays hands.
Yeah, it's a running joke, by the way, on Derek's stream that he's a Russian bot. So yeah. I don't know who started that, but I think it's pretty obvious he is neither Russian nor a bot. Discuss.
It almost became reality the other day because there was I got the human verification test and I read the question wrong. And I'm like, I don't know the answer. I couldn't figure out the answer. And I kept putting it on the stream so people could see the question. And I'm like, I don't know what the answer is. And then finally somebody else read the question. I was like, hey, dolt, you're reading the question wrong. It's the 8 of hearts or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I hate when you're trying to log into something and they show you a picture and they're like, click all the boxes that have traffic lights.
Yeah.
And I do it and they're like, wrong, try again. And then they show me another picture and I get that one wrong. Like, what do they want from me? I'm looking at the picture. I don't know.
Yeah, that was the first time I almost failed. You get 60 seconds or something, I think. And I think I was down to about 15 seconds left to answer. And I was like, do I really have to call ACR support? Like, I'm on stream right now. I'm human, I promise.
And then you get kicked off. Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
So,
all right, what do you got for us? What's the
all right,
crime?
so this, I know I say this every time. I don't know what tournament this is from. And I keep promising myself that I'm going to start making notes of what the tournament is. But as is usually the case, I'm generally playing between 330s and 1650s. So it's in that range of buy-ins, and it's an MTT. And that's all we really need to know at the end of the day.
Yeah, sure.
We're at the 1400 big blind level, which means for most tournaments, we are not in the money yet. And we're probably not even all that close to the bubble, honestly, because most of these tournaments start pretty deep, with pretty large stack numbers, if you will.
Right.
So we are at the 700 1400 level. We're starting the hand with 134K, so almost 100 big blinds.
Wow, good for you. Are you the chip leader at your table?
I am actually, which is a rare moment, so I probably should take more advantage of those.
Yeah, that sounds like a huge stack in any smaller stakes ACR tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're off to a pretty good start. My table in general looks pretty standard. You know, a lot of people in like the 18 to 23 VPIP range,
Right.
with the exception of one guy who's running 50-50, but we only have a few hands on him. So he means basically nothing. And he's not involved in the hand. So it's a lot of pretty standard players and no names that I recognize. So we are in middle position, the hijack to be specific. And it folds to us with queen of clubs, nine of clubs.
Yeah, of course we're going to open this. I don't see any reason to do anything crazy. Just maybe like a min bet or 2.2, whatever your standard is.
Yeah, sounds right. I typically tend to do about 2.2, but I did an exact min in this case. And I don't know if that could be because small blind and big blind have relatively short stacks. They have like 14 and 13 bigs respectively. So maybe I was just planning to fold to them if they jammed or something. Although I don't really like that very much. I'd rather just go bigger and call off. But in general, I think a min raise is perfectly fine here.
Yeah.
We get called by the cutoff, who has a stack of about 76K. He is actually the third biggest stack at the table. And then the rest of the players fold. So we are playing a pot out of position against a guy with a pretty healthy stack with queen nine of clubs.
Okay, and he's got, what is that, 60-ish big blinds then?
Yeah, 55 after he calls. So
Okay.
He started with like 57.
Okay. Now his call is kind of alarming to me. He shouldn't really be fooling around too much. Generally speaking, when you get called by somebody on your immediate left, if that player is any good at all, he probably doesn't have junk, right? Because he's putting himself in a really horrible spot if another player calls or three bets on his left. So that's what we call bad relative position because it's relative to the raiser. And so I would say he's probably got a pretty good hand.
Yeah, and all the other three stacks in the hand are like pretty perfect, like just reshove or shove stacks,
right?
Over our open. So yeah, it makes me a little skeptical as well, or suspicious, if you will.
Yeah.
That being said, it's an average buy-in of $11. You never know for sure, but I mean, I guess to give the villain's exact statistics, he's been running 18-6, so he's kind of on the tighter side too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm running 27-14 in this tournament, and people call me a nit, so he's considerably more nitty than me.
Yeah, but you're just running that in this tournament. I know your lifetime VPIP is nowhere near 27.
No.
Let's be honest.
And that's probably a result of being that I have so many chips. It's either a result of the fact that I'm trying to take advantage of my big chip stack, or I've just been dealt so many good hands that I've played a lot of hands. One of the two.
Yeah, and that's why you have that stack.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so what's the flop?
Yeah, so the flop comes 9-4-8 with two hearts, and there's about 9K in the middle. And again, we have queen nine of clubs, so we flop top pair, backdoor straight draws, no backdoor flush draw. I'm pretty sure you're going to say this is just a standard c-bet spot, but we'll see.
Well, it is a great spot for a c-bet in my opinion. However, there is a case to be made for checking. Just like when we were just going through some of those main event hands a minute ago, Durer flops top pair and checks to his opponent in that spot. When you get called by somebody and that player has position, you don't want to just bet when you have it and check when you don't, because that's just too exploitable. So we need to have some top pairs in our checking range. I mean, that said, I would, probably bet a good amount of the time in this situation, but not always. So I'm okay with you checking or betting. If I were to bet, I would go on the higher side because it's such a wet flop. 9-8-4 with two hearts. There are a lot of straight draws, flush draws around. So I would just, bet more maybe like a 75% pot C bet, or checking is also okay? What'd you do?
To my surprise, when I was looking at this hand today before we recorded, I checked.
Okay.
I don't know my reasoning. I don't think it was because I think GTO would have told me to do it 50% of the time. Maybe it's just, thinking that this villain's just going to fold a lot of the time and I'm trying to get some value. But I think on this wet board, I prefer betting, but it sounds like maybe we should be mixing in some checks. So I don't know. Maybe I am a GTO robot.
Yeah, maybe you are. Okay. So you checked.
I check and he checks back.
Okay.
And the turn is the queen of spades. So now we have 9, 4, 8, queen, 2 hearts, 2 spades. And we obviously have top 2, which is nice, we think.
Yeah, I think that's a great card for us. I mean, the only thing that got there is the Jack 10. And so you're telling me that this player flopped an open-ender and didn't bet it when we checked to him on the flop?
Right.
I mean, it's possible, of course, but unlikely.
Yeah, I agree. I like to think he would probably bet quite often with the 10 Jack. Not all players do, and we have established this guy as a little bit of a tighter player. So, maybe he is the type that checks back his open-ended straight draws. But as a rule, I would think he would bet that fairly often. That being said, I think it is time for us to start betting now. I'll start building a little pot, especially the board's getting wetter and wetter. So I'd like to take this down now if I can.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have to bet. Now we have top 2 pair. There are 2 spades and 2 hearts out there, for what it's worth. We just have queen 9 of clubs. I would probably bet big here. I like an overbet sizing in these spots. Like I might put in say 13,000.
Yeah, I tend to not overbet a lot, which is definitely a part of my game that's missing. I almost never do it. However, I do think I should have bet, or normally would have bet bigger here. I bet what I'm guessing based on the number I'm seeing is probably the 40% button, because I have a 40% button on my bet sizing slider.
Okay.
So I think I bet 40%, which is 39.27 into this pot. But I think bigger for sure, and it sounds like you like much bigger. And I think I actually like yours better. Our hand is almost certainly good, but I would like to. I don't know if there's such a thing as sort of merging like protection and value, but I would love to get called by a hand like, ace 10 of hearts or something and get all the value.
Yeah. If we overbet, we can get value from hands like 9-8, maybe some kind of combo draw, like what about like a king 10 of hearts, right?
Yep.
Something like that. Like there are hands that can call the overbet, but yeah, I want to be able to overbet when I have a draw. So I need to do it when I have a strong hand too.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, generally speaking, my sizing on the turn, if I bet the turn, it's usually a larger sizing. Many times on the flop, we can do like 25%, 30% is okay. And then, of course, on the flop, we can also bet big sometimes too. But on the turn, typically, if you're going to bet the turn, you want to size it up because you're really trying to deny equity. Of course, in this particular case, because we have such a strong hand, we don't mind getting called.
Yeah.
Of course. We almost certainly have the best hand. So, yeah, I'm not crazy about the 40% button there. I would go much bigger.
Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, we bet the 40%, 39.27, and he raises to 15K.
Okay. All right.
So now maybe I'm happy I didn't bet bigger. I don't know. Hard to say.
Yeah,
I don't know what to make of this. I looked at this hand, like I said earlier. I looked at this before we started recording, and I have no idea what this raise means.
Yeah, I mean, he could have Jack 10. We did, looking at his numbers that you have, 18-6. Those are just pre-flop, but you see he's not very aggressive. That 6 is really low. That's the pre-flop raise percentage, and that's very low.
Yeah.
Do you have other numbers we can look at, like how aggressive he is post-flop or anything like that?
Let's see. So I do have the about all I know is that 18-6. I mean, he is 3-bet 2% of the time over 117 hands. So just going more into the tightness, I guess.
So that's like 3. He 3-bet 3 times out of 117. That's
folds to see full, even though we didn't properly see bet, we delay seed bet. He folds to see bets almost 60% of the time.
Okay. I mean, 100 hands on somebody isn't nothing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I just think our hand is too strong, and there's so many draws available. I mean, this guy could have like 7-6 of spades, and now this card gave him a flush draw to go with his gut shot, right? I mean, there's so many hands that we're beating that could raise us here. I would just shove. You know, again, we're trying to deny equity. At least make him pay if he's got some kind of combo draw or whatever. I don't like calling because we're still going to be out of position on the river. I think I would just put it in. Why not? You know, by the time he makes it 15,000, there's already like.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of merit in just calling, just because we are going to put ourselves, unless we're just hoping he's doing exactly what you said, which is, you know, betting some sort of combo draw, and we think we can get him to check it on the river. But I'd rather just get it in now. He's kind of committed himself.
I mean, I don't know if he's committed. He's still got. Well, you said he started with how much? 70?
Yeah, he's still got. Let's see. He would have about 30 bigs. So,
and also, you're never pot committed when you're bluffing.
True.
So if he's bluffing, he's not pot committed, no matter how much he's got left.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, if we're getting coolered out here, like if he's got the Jack 10, which is, I guess, the only thing I'm really worried about. I'm not particularly worried about pocket 4s, pocket 8s, pocket 9s, because on that wet flop, I think all of the sets would be betting. When we check the flop, he checked behind.
Yeah.
So even if he had pocket 9s, which we block, by the way. So let's say pocket 8s, right? A lot of players would be 3-bet us pre-flop, but he's only got a 6. You know, he's only 3-bet 3 times out of 117 hands. So maybe he just flats with that. I don't know, man. I there are just so many hands we can beat that could raise us here. And really only one that I'm worried about, Jack 10. And even against Jack 10, I have 4 outs.
Yeah, true. And I mean, and the fact that we also played this hand in kind of weakly, you know, we checked top pair, we bet small on the turn, like we look weak too. So if this guy has the ability to sense that, I mean, and he combines that with the fact that he has some sort of big combo draw, it's a really good spot for him to 3. So yeah, we do exactly what neither of us think I should do, which is call. So it turns out I am confirmed not a Russian robot.
Right.
So now there's almost 40K in the pot, 39K. And we see the king of diamonds. So now the board reads 9-4-8 queen king. The flush draws did not get there. I mean, a bigger straight draw got there, but that was already there. So
right. Yeah.
So yeah, so now it is our action, almost 40K in the pot.
If we just call the raise on the turn, we have to check to him on the river, right?
Yeah, I think so. So if we think what his sort of range is 10 jack and then combo draws, it's got to be best to check because we're either beat or he's going to fold when we bet.
Right. Unless he had that king 10 of hearts that I mentioned earlier.
True.
And now he made a pair finally, and he might pay off a bet. I don't know. I mean, we could try a blocking bet here. Like, what if you put in like, I don't know, like 11,000 and see if he'll just call it instead of doing something else. But you could get paid by like a queen X with a flush draw or a king 10 of hearts kind of hand.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, actually. I had not considered that option, but it's a good point. Because he could, if he has a queen 10 of hearts or something, he might just make a big bet here because he thinks it's good. The way we've played our hand, he might be the one putting us on a flush draw.
Yeah, but I don't know if he would make a big bet if he thinks his pair of queens is good, because he would try to make a bet that we can call with worse, and with the king showing up on the end, he would probably be worried about that,
Yeah, that's true.
being able to get paid. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you're value betting a queen, you're probably going to go pretty small here on the end. I don't know, man. This is it's a weird spot. I mean, I wish we hadn't called the turn, but everybody's favorite phrase, as played.
As played.
I guess I would check the river, but I think there is some merit to betting like 12,000 instead.
Yeah. I think if nothing else, betting 12K here is going to make us feel much better about whatever we do after he acts,
Right.
Because I think if we bet 12K and he raises or just jams, we might feel pretty comfortable that we're not good.
Yeah. I mean,
Because I don't think he's going to jam
9-8.
Yeah, that might be the only. Yeah.
He wouldn't jam 9-8. He has to worry about a better 2-pair or a straight.
Yeah.
We have all the straights. We have all the Jack 10.
Yeah. Yeah, so I like it from a mental health standpoint, if nothing else. So at least you can go, oh, okay, he has me beat. I fooled.
Yeah.
But we did opt for the check, and he over jams 60K into 39K.
Oh, God. Okay. I mean, I think we have to fold now. I don't know. Like, is he just going absolutely crazy with like a busted flush draw? I mean, there are hands, obviously, we can beat.
Yeah.
That feel like they can't win now, like 10-7, especially hearts or spades.
And I think there's like some really good, like sicko MTT players who could do this with like a busted flush draw, or some, 6-7 or something. I just don't know if your average player who's running 18-6-2 is going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think given his numbers, even though we only have 100 hands on him, I feel like I would fold. I mean, you fold, you could still preserve your very healthy stack, which isn't really a reason to fold, because if you call and win, you're going to be chip leader in the whole damn tournament. Right. But I just don't think you're going to win very much when you call, and you're not getting a particularly good price with this overbet. I mean, you do have 2-pair, which relatively speaking would normally be considered a pretty strong hand, but not against all this heat. Yeah. I mean, look, if he earned the pot, he earned the pot. He wins. I'm not calling. What'd you do?
I folded. It must have been early in the night, before I had a few more beers, because I'm sure if it was 12 a.m. I would have called.
But that narrows down what tournament it was. Then we can figure out what you played earlier in the night.
But I do think folding is correct. Maybe this will be one of the ones we run through GTO Solver on or GTO Wizard when we do our first stream of that.
I'll run it through next week. I mean, that's what I like to do anyway, is just take whatever hand was the hand of the week in the week before.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
We'll definitely run this through next week. So make sure you guys tune in again next week when I'll be broadcasting from Maryland. And then the week after that, I'll be broadcasting from the World Series of Poker. So get ready. I can't wait to get out there. I really wish you could join us again. Had so much fun last time out there with you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to sweating you, like I said, and I'll be there in spirit.
And let's talk to some of our friends at ACR Poker about why I wasn't a possible draftee from the fantasy league.
They just have no faith in us.
Well, that's okay. The Twitterverse has spoken, and a lot of people like the tweet where the guy says, I'm going to win my first bracelet. So we'll show them, and then I'll end up on the list of potential roster players for next year's fantasy draft. How's that?
That's right.
All right, Derek, what do you want people to know before we say goodbye?
Just, like we talked about earlier, join us on Sundays, 6 p.m. Eastern for the TP free roll, but get there early because the password does get released and it does fill up. So make sure you get there early. And follow me over on Twitter and Instagram and even TikTok.
And TikTok too. He always gives the heads up on the Discord. That's where we let people know, look, I'm going to be giving out the password around this time, or, this is what's going on. This is how you get the password this week. So you want to join the Discord. It's absolutely free. Just use the link in the description of this podcast. Also, guys, if you're not yet on ACR Poker, I think it's a great time to join now. You can click the link that we provide in the podcast description and use the promo code TPE, and then you get a first-time deposit bonus up to $2,000, 100% of your buy-in just by clicking that link and then entering the promo code TPE. Derek, thanks so much. I know how busy you are. I always appreciate you taking the time to come back and be a guest on the podcast that you created in the first place.
Thanks so much, Clayton. It's always a pleasure to jump on with you, and safe travels and have an amazing time in Vegas.
Thank you, sir. So for Derek Killingbird Penbush and everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, with special thanks as always to our very generous sponsor, ACR Poker. I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas, please. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Lock in intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Poker face, she's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Poker face, she's got to love nobody. Poker face, poker face. Poker face, poker face. I wanna roll with her, a hard pair we will be. While little gambling is fun when